Hello, guys, this is Karthik, and I am back again with yet another episode on my podcast. Wow, this is the fourth episode that I'm recording. But the only difference this time is that you might have noticed it as well, like the name of the podcast has been altered a little. It is now Growing Up Gone Wrong instead of Random Realms, as you're accustomed to, right? So the story behind this is I really wanted to have a personal podcast as well. So random realms still exist, and I have linked it down in this very podcast as well. If you go to the more like this section on your Spotify application, you might find the link to random realms. But the only thing that drove me to bifurcate these two podcasts is on random realms. I'm collectively working with Geeta on creating content. Like every week, we are recording episodes and we are actively talking, and it is a two-way conversation. But in this specific podcast, I really wanted to be more personal to my audience, and I really wanted to talk about things that I really feel more comfortable talking about as just one person, as a storytelling maybe. I really wanted to do that, and I will be more actively participating and more actively posting and creating new episodes on this podcast. I hope you stick around, and we are going to have a lot of fun, and we are going to talk about books and travel related things, and I will answer your questions if you guys post any. So let us begin with this podcast. Like, this could be called the pilot episode. So the major thing that we're going to talk about here is why Growing Up Gone Wrong. Why did I choose that as a title? Honestly, that was more of an impulse. It was totally an impulsive action. I was thinking about how I would have done better in life if I had just known how to grow up the right way. Do you not have this feeling too? Like if a few years ago somebody had told you, like you have to deal with this specific issue in this fashion, you don't have to panic, you don't have to deal it in this way, you might be better off with that information, right? You would be in a better place today, and you might have avoided a lot of stupid hurdles. That's what I was thinking, and that is why I decided to name it that. Growing Up Gone Wrong. It does not necessarily mean that we are fuck ups and we are screw ups and we are not doing right in life. We are not doing it the right way. There is no right or wrong way, but on a personal level, everyone feels that if we knew these things earlier, or if we knew things even now, it would have been better for us, and it could be better for us if we continue to follow these. It is just like setting a moral ground for ourselves and maybe a work logic for our lives. So I will be going to talk about how I came to this thought and how I am intercepting it and how I am interpreting that as well. So a lot of people could relate to this and a lot of people could not. And I think that is okay. Like, this is the main point of podcast, to actively have conversations with people, even though I'm just the only one talking here. But you can obviously actively text me or maybe leave comments under this podcast, or maybe answer the polls of Q&A. So we are still interacting in some fashion. Like, you are an active human being and you are listening to my podcast. The thought is already being stored in your head, right? So let us begin with it. Like, what I thought I could have done better in my own lives, and let's see, like, if you guys can relate to it. The one thing that I really think comes at the top of my head is, to be interesting, be interested. I repeat, to be interesting, be interested. I really think that if I had known this earlier, or if or let's just say that I consider this to be the right way of growing. Growing up knowing that to be interesting, you don't really, have to pretend to do things. You just have to actively participate in the things around you. You have to be interested when someone is telling you about their day, or at the very molecular level of it, right? And if someone is talking about something they are actually passionate about, and if they are narrating a story to you, like, you dissect their story, like how did they tell that story? Was it captivating or not? If it was, like, you need to integrate that in yourself. and you need to learn to be a better storyteller, for example, right? So at the core of it lies that, for example, there was a very good quote in Game of Thrones that I don't remember who specifically quoted it, but it was quoted to Jon Snow. And he said, in order to lead someday, you must learn how to follow. Yeah, I did a really bad mimic, but yeah, that is so true. Like, in order to do something, specific thing, you need to be at the opposite end of it, like at the receiving end of it too. If you want to be, like, for example, let's just say you want to be a good podcaster, like I need to listen to as many podcasts as I can so that I can dig deep into it, like I'll dissect all of the podcasts and learn more how I can improve and what I can do that they could not, or what bring out their mistakes and implement the solutions in mind so that I can improve myself overall as a podcaster, right? So that same theory applies here, because you cannot just be interesting by faking or maybe just creatively telling stories. Every single human being deserves a connection, and they are looking for a connection, and connection happens both ways. You cannot pretend, or you cannot expect people to just accept you or be interested in you because you are an interesting person or you have cool things to tell to people. You need to actively communicate and be a part of their lives as well to form and build a real connection with them, right? So I think that if I knew that earlier, it would have been really good for me, because for a long time, I used to think that I am doing something wrong. Like, I am not cool enough, that people are not interested in me or what I have to say. But in the end, I realized that I was not really paying attention to anybody either. And I was expecting quite a lot in return. So I could have been in a better place years ago if I had known this. And there is this one, let's jump to the second part. There's a specific video of J. Cole that I know, I'm not sure like how many of you are J. Cole's fan, but there was a speech that he gave before singing Love Yours on a live concert. And he talks about how we are also accustomed to pain. Like, we signed up on a document before getting born into this world, brought up, and, before we grew up, we signed that document before coming to this world that, yeah, we accept the pain and suffering that it brings with it. And we all suffer in some ways, like whether it be silent kind of pain that grows over time, or maybe you saw something that you shouldn't have, maybe you saw an early death in your family, or any single thing that you might have known better. There is tons of pain in life, but nobody has ever taught us how to deal with it. That is the point, that is the question, that is the main ideology that he raises in that speech. That is so true. Like, if had somebody taught me how to deal with all of these emotions, how all of these feelings that I don't even have words for, that resonate with pain and suffering, I could have been better, right? We all could have been better if somebody had taught us. Like, we are 23, like I'm 23, and people are 30 plus, 40 plus, and still do not know how to process pain. It grows over time, we let it grow, and we have no idea where to put it. So this is crazy, right? A lot of things in life, everybody says like through experiences we learn, right? But these experiences come over time, and sometimes they do not come at all. That is why I have named this podcast Growing Up Gone Wrong, because a lot of things haven't still been answered. It is if there are actually some answers, those are very vague, and those do not help people grow or understand how to deal with things. So that loop of how we do not know how to handle and deal with all of this trauma, that still loops around in my head, just because a few years ago I saw this clip of J. Cole. So, some things that stick with you and you never really get the answers to them. Another of these things that I would like to mention is, we need to make do of things that we have around ourselves. I'm not necessarily talking about financial status of people, but of what we have available in our creative zones. For example, you do not have a microphone doesn't mean that will stop you from recording a podcast. Or in short, in the molecular level, this means that we need to stop making excuses for the things that we could have done very easily with or without them. In short, we need to stop procrastinating. But that is too basic way, in a very basic way to say that. But in the end, we can do quite a lot of things. We just get carried away by the dependencies that thing or a task might have. For example, we want to paint, but we do not have those point B brushes, point C brushes. You need just one brush to start a painting. You need to start somewhere. For example, you don't have a good as camera. It doesn't mean that will stop you from storytelling in your videos, or you should stop making cinematic shots of something that you might think is really appealing to you. It is all in your head. The creative thinking should not be stopped by or limited by what you do not actually have. It is not about financial things, but more related to materialistic things. These things should not stop you from being creative. This should not pose as a barrier in your life and stop you from doing certain things. And I still sometimes get limited by things like this, because I sometimes feel that I do not have a good enough camera, so I should, wait and save and get a new camera, then start creating. It does not work like that. Whatever you have, whatever I have, I need to make do with that and be the best version of myself I can be. And for a long time, I used to blame my circumstances for things like that. And I really wished I could tell this to my younger self and, maybe somehow give these experiences, make myself feel all of this at a younger age so that I could be a better person right now. I'm not saying that I've grown up wrong in a certain way. Like, I'm still doing fine. I have learned all of these things on my own. But in the end, certain things we always consider that they could have been better if we had known about them sooner. If certain experiences or people in our lives had come in our lives a little sooner, right? And I honestly have no idea how to fix all of this. I am still learning. I am learning quite a lot of things all at once. I'm learning how to be a better storyteller, and I'm learning how to express my emotions in a better way. That is a step, because time has a piece of you when you grow up. With every passing year, time captures a piece of you and it never releases it. It is like you're stuck there forever, because everybody keeps telling you, like, when you grow up, you'll know, like, there is an age for this, or there will come a time that you actually understand. Don't worry. All of these are quite vague when we attempt to find answers to our questions. Like, before you know anything, time passes by and you're like 30 and you're stepping on the same door asking questions. And at that moment, maybe you realize that time has you in its pocket. Like an age where the man realizes that he belongs to the time. Time is never his. He belongs to the time. Like, there is a clock ticking by and there is a certain rush to do all of these things, and your eyes open, and you sometimes think that I wish I really had known this quite a few years ago. Maybe I should have knocked harder on this door to know about this better. But that happens. Like, we are all slaves of time. We are, in the back of our mind, we're just living in the sense of nostalgia, like what we could have been rather than what we could be. So that is a very big debate with ourselves that we need to do. Like, before that time comes where we actually realize that we belong to time, and we lose a part of ourselves as we grow up. Sooner we realize it, the better it is for us. And this vlog, this episode on this podcast might sound very optimistic, right? And that is probably because I've been traveling for a few months. Let's say it has been a year actually that I've started traveling more often than I did before. So all of these experiences and all of the situations that I had to be in and to actually work to get out of, these teaches you a lot of things, and you start valuing certain things that you never even cared about before, and you start to play around and explore and expand yourselves, expand your brain, expand your way of thinking. You get broader with time. You don't specifically stick to one specific thing, and you grow in all directions. And in the end, it is uninteresting to play safe, right? Some might screw you up big time, and some might change your lives forever. Some might cling you out of this reality and put somewhere else. But in the end, these are real experiences, and these are your experiences that shape your future. This topic is very interesting. Like, we grew up wrong. If we had known all of this earlier, like, I would have definitely gone crazy because I cannot chill out. People ask me to chill out. Like, every single person in my life has at some point asked me to just relax, just take it slow, and don't pressurize yourself with things, or don't look for answers in maybe wrong places or in at wrong times. But I am always curious. Like, I am always intrigued by things. So I think that does bring a factor of unsafe experiences to your life. Enthusiasm, excitement is always welcomed. And it is an interesting topic, and I really urge you to go and type J. Cole speech, Love Yours, and click on the first video, which is in vertical format, and watch that. It will really appeal to you how he talks about this specific topic and how he inspired me to actually think about it more deeply. So you should go and check this out, and I could really go on with this topic forever because it is quite interesting to know all of this and to maybe know various aspects of things, like how a lot of us are thinking in terms of life and the timelines of life, actually, the way we grew up and the way we wanted to grow up. That is a very good contrasting and maybe a very good comparison to do at one's life. So we would definitely continue this conversation sometime else, and we would let me know if you guys want me to like collect more details around this and form another episode, and or maybe if you have some questions regarding the same or disagreements, you can always like leave a comment under the podcast, or you can hit me up on Instagram. My @ is not Karthik, the double K at the end. You can always text me about how intrigued you are about some certain questions or aspects of life, or maybe books or travel, and we can obviously talk about it in our podcast the next time. I love how I mentioned we instead of I, because I really believe that this is collectively us, like the audience and I, that are collectively involved in this. Like, you are listening actively, and if you participate, I know that. Even if you don't participate, I know that you are listening, right? But anyhow, I had a really good time today, and I really hope that I somehow kickstarted something in your head about this topic, and maybe you would think about this before going to bed today. So I will see you in yet another episode. I will come back and I will actively create more episodes and talk about more things on this podcast. Stay tuned and take care of yourselves. Goodbye.